So go down there after lunch, they meet with us, they say, we read the script, we love the female protagonist, we love the action milieu. We've never sold a script for less than 6 figures. You know, I'm shaking in my boots here.
If a student from College of the Canyons were to ask you if it's possible for them to sell a screenplay while being a student, what would you tell them?
I would tell them it's very possible, and the reason is it's a personal experience I had of myself. I was a grad student at Loyola Marymount. I was studying towards my degree, but at the same time I was working in the industry, and at the same time I was writing screenplays, working, writing, taking classes, and meeting people. But I sold my first screenplay, I think, a year and a half before I got my graduate degree.
And would you say that's typical?
It's not typical. I wish it was. It wasn't typical, but a lot had to do with the fact that I was kind of slowing down my education and increasing my work out in the industry. I got jobs, low-level jobs, and I was meeting people, and I kept thinking, well, this is almost better than going to class. I was still taking 1 or 2 classes a semester, working, networking, expanding that network. So is it typical? No, definitely not. But it doesn't mean that you have to wait till you're out of school to try to sell something, to reach out and make those connections to sell. Definitely could happen anytime.
And looking back on it now, having met so many people in the industry, having taught for years, do you realize how unique your situation is?
I do. I do. My situation was very unique. It was unique in that things lined up. And, let's face it, no matter who sells anything in Hollywood, there's a certain amount of luck involved. But it wasn't that I was extremely lucky. I had worked very hard to get to the point where I could actually make a sale. As I said, I was a grad student at Loyola. I was still going to school. At the time when I sold my first screenplay, I was an assistant at Universal, so I was working full time. And I was meeting people, networking there. I still had my schoolwork to do. So ultimately, when it came to that opportunity to sell, I was in the right place at the right time, but I'd also put in my hours. I'd put in my time. So I wish I could say it happened overnight. It didn't,
How does a student get anyone, quote unquote, important to read their screenplay? How did you do it?
Well, I did it through networking. So the problem, of course, if you're just a student in a classroom, you have your teacher, and hopefully your teacher will read it and give you honest feedback. That's your first level. But the key now is getting it out to the next level, out to people who can read it and maybe do something for you. That's the most difficult part. I wasn't able to do that while I was a student. My teachers were great. They gave me wonderful feedback, but it wasn't like they were sending my work out to the industry or referring it to agents. That took me going outside of school, getting a job in the industry, low-level jobs, entry-level jobs, and meeting the right people. So ultimately, ultimately for me, I should say, I was able to get it to people because I went outside the school system. Within the school, if you're still a student and you aren't working in the industry, you can start to network out and send letters out. It's a very slow and arduous process to get it out. Agents aren't going to look at your work, especially if you don't have a body of work. The first thing I should say, by the way, is you need a body of work to show. So I always tell my students, never show something that's not complete, never show something that's not ready to be seen. I have this theory, I call it, you don't get a good second look, and that is, I'll give you my screenplay, you'll look at it, you'll like it, you'll give me some thoughts, and I'll come back to you a year later and I'll say, look, I changed it. You won't notice the difference. The reader won't notice the difference. So never send something out, never show something that isn't ready. And sometimes as students, they get opportunities. Hey, I met a guy, or I know this person, my neighbor's an agent. And I say, slow down. Don't rush into showing them your work until it's ready to go, because you won't get that second look. So it's gotta be good, it's gotta be great. I do ask my students, I say, hey, make a list of everybody you know works in the industry. I don't care if they drive a car, a truck, a sound guy, a lighting guy, it doesn't matter. Make a list of everyone you know in the industry, and when the time comes, because your script is ready, it's ready to be seen, it's better than it's ever been, the teacher likes it, your classmates like it, then reach out to those people and say, hey, I have a favor to ask. Will you take a look at this? Now, the sound guy may not be able to do anything, but he works on a set. He might be very good friends with the director or the producer. So it's about making that network. What network do you have already? And then asking people to do it for you, to make that step. But never be ingratiating. Never sit there and say, please do this again and again and again. You get one good ask.
Right. And may I ask, what types of, you said low-level jobs. I'm just curious, who were you interacting with, and what was your sort of day-to-day like with those jobs?
Oh, when I started?
Yeah.
Oh, so my journey was kind of interesting. I started as a grad student. I was a grad student at Loyola. My first job was as a PA on a low-budget movie. called Dangerous Love, starring Lawrence Monahan and Elliot Gould for 2 days. It was a horrible movie, but it was a great experience because it taught me that I did not want to be a PA on a set. I did not like physical production. But my next opportunity came along. I got an internship. I met a producer at a lecture. He was talking about TV movies. I walked up to him afterwards. I said, "Hey, do you want an intern?" Of course, yes. I'm talking about free work, right? So I got an internship with this producer. His name was Stan Brooks. He was making a TV movie for a television production company that made TV movies. This was the 90s. And I then got a job from that job as a runner. A runner is a guy who drives around town, picks up checks, drops them off, picks up lunch. I did anything that people asked me to do, but I was getting paid good money. And I was a grad student. And they liked the fact that I was a student. The fact that I was a film student was really, they were happy with that. Like, they weren't just hiring someone off the street. So then an opportunity came to become the assistant to a vice president at Universal Studios. Actually, a director of development, Nina Jacobson. She had just started at Universal. She's a very successful producer now. She and I met, and she liked me. I told her up front, I'm a film student. That's what I want to do. She was looking for someone like that. She didn't want a secretary. She wanted someone who was interested. That got me in the door with the movie studio. And there, I just worked hard. And I met a lot of people, producers, and I let people know what I want to do. And I always tell my students this: tell people what you want to do. I want to be a screenwriter. I want to be a filmmaker. I want to be an actor. But don't overdo it. Don't carry on every day. You know I'm a film writer or a screenwriter. You know I'm an actor. They know. You told them once. But once people knew that's what I wanted to do, they came to me later and said, "Hey, do you have something I can read?" So I had a couple of producers who were interested in helping me out. One producer, a woman named Carrie Albert, she sent my script to 25 different agents. And I got 25 different rejection letters. But one day, a friend of mine named Meg Dower, was also a junior agent. She sent it, actually she wasn't a junior agent at the time, she was just an assistant at the time. She sent it to an agent at United Talent Agency. They called me on a Monday. They said, "We think we can sell this thing." And by Thursday, it was sold and I was no longer an assistant. Well, I was for 2 more weeks.
Stan Brooks, we've interviewed him.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, he was great. Yeah,
so
okay.
yeah, Stan, he was lecturing. I was a tour guide at Universal at the time.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And one thing about being a tour guide at Universal was it was me and what we call MAWs, model, actresses, whatevers. But they did do these wonderful lectures for this tour guides at night where they'd bring in producers or actors, and we would have these great lectures. And that's where I met Stan Brooks. And I just went up to him and said, "Hey, I want to be an intern." And I tell my students this. We have internships at our college and all other colleges, but go create your own. Go knock on doors and tell people, "I'm a film student," which is a wonderful safety net. I remind my students, when you say you're a film student, people will assume you're vetted and you're not, off the crazy train. And they will open a door for you. And in this case, they opened a door for me. They got me an intern. He said, "I love it." I came in every week for a couple of months. And one internship turned into another, turned into a job, and so on down the line.
But I have to ask, you seem like you're not afraid to approach people, and some people are. Where does that come from?
Okay, that's a really good point. I'm not a shy person, but I wouldn't say I'm an overly bold person either. But I recognize people aren't going to find me. I have to be found. And again, I also recognize the fact that you don't sit there and just, "Hey, I'm a writer. Hey, I'm a writer. Did you read my stuff yet? I'm following up." I let them know gently. I let them know politely. I want them to know that I'm not going to be a problem if they bring me on board, if they deal with me. But I knew that I had to approach people and get things done, or I would just be another person sitting in that room, walking out of that lecture and not having an internship. I knew I needed an internship on the creative side of filmmaking because I had already had an internship on a soundstage, on a filmmaking set, which was not for me. I needed to be on the creative side, and that's where the first internship came to play. And that was back in the TV movie days, where the company I worked for, which was called Hearst Entertainment. It was originally called Phoenix Entertainment. We cranked out movies of the week, Victoria Principal, all those kind of films. It was a great experience because movie of the weeks were fun to be like a fly on the wall. That's what I was. I was an assistant, so I wasn't really, involved in the actual process, but they let me see everything and, read everything, and I just sucked in knowledge.
What is the idea behind Trackdown?
So Track Down was the first spec script I sold. I sold it with a writing partner, Jim McLean, and myself. And it's great. First of all, this was 1993. And what were we selling in Hollywood? First, it was the salad days for selling spec scripts. Spec scripts were flying off the walls. A little backstory on that, the studios had all been purchased by big conglomerates, and they were throwing money at the studios. The studios were throwing money at the writers. And so my timing was perfect. Die Hard, of course, was the framework we all lived and died by as action writers. My dad sent me an article about the English Channel Tunnel, the tunnel between England and France. It had just opened. This is about 93, or was opening. And I thought, wow, what does a Die Hard kind of film require? It contains space, where action can happen in a contained space, which all the Die Hard movies pretty much subscribe to, right? And I looked at this and said, no one's touched this. This is an outstanding opportunity. So we said, let's write. So we started with a premise, the English Channel Tunnel. Someone takes over the English Channel Tunnel. Who is it? Well, we built up the story. Okay, it's terrorists. But in the Die Hard mold, is it really terrorists? Or is there a secondary agenda? We didn't stray too far from that. But one place where we took a really good turn was we said, what's our hero going to be in Track Down? And the typical hero would be an ex-Navy SEAL, right? Or a cop on vacation. And we said, oh, we've seen that. And when I try to develop characters, I try to find a character that's believable in their world, right? And okay, so maybe an ex-Navy SEAL's on a train, but less believable than the civil engineer who built the tunnel. So we said, let's make him a civil engineer. He built the tunnel, so when all this goes down, he knows the tunnel. He doesn't know how to fire a gun. He doesn't know how, that kind of stuff works, but he knows how a tunnel works, and he knows how technology works, and that's his weapon. And then we said, wait a minute, let's flip it one more time, and we made him a her. So we said, let's do a female action star, because at that point we looked around and said, there just hasn't been any. Not that we're jumping off the page. So we said, female action, civil engineer in a Die Hard world. This feels the same, but different. We feel like we've hit the Die Hard mold, which the studios are looking for. Our biggest risk is we're doing a character that you wouldn't expect, but is believable in her world. And so we sent it out, and of course I told you we got those rejection letters, 25 of them. But UTA, Gavin Pallone, very big agent, Barry Mendel, they called me up on a Monday. And it's funny because, again, I'm working for Nina Jacobson at Universal Pictures. My job is to answer the phones, and Gavin Pallone calls Nina all the time, and so does Barry Mendel at the time. And they call, the call says Gavin Pallone calling. I go, oh, I'll get Nina, she's down the hall. They go, no, he's calling for you. And I'm like, and Gavin was a very intense guy, so I was like, well, why is he calling for me? Did I screw something up? Did I not get a message to Nina? And then they come on the phone and they say, listen, we read the script, we love it. Can you get down here? They're at UTA after lunch. I'm like, let me check. Of course, yes. So go down there after lunch. They meet with us. They say, we read the script. We love the female protagonist. We love the action milieu. We've never sold a script for less than 6 figures. I'm shaking in my boots here. And so we agree to do it. I mean, would I say no? Of course not. Go back to the studio, go back to work, tell everyone I just had a meeting at UTA with the big agent. Everyone's excited. Nina's excited. The script goes out the next day or maybe the day after. Back then, they had a different tactic for sending out spec scripts, but it basically went out the night before the bidding would start. And the script went out, and I think it was Thursday morning, a bidding war started between multiple studios. The one studio that did not get involved was my studio, Universal. Nina liked it, but she passed on it. Ultimately, it went to Columbia Pictures, and it went to Columbia Pictures because of a decision we had made months earlier, a female action star. Jodie Foster had found the script. Denise DeNovi is the producer who basically purchased it, or the studio purchased it for her, but because she showed it to Jodie Foster, and Jodie Foster had been looking for a female action script. So my timing was lucky. My choice of making a female versus a male was lucky, but I read the room right. If it was Vegas, I hit the jackpot. So ultimately, the script sold on a Thursday, and I was like, I'm a professional screenwriter today. But I did give 2 weeks' notice. It was the best 2 weeks of my life, working as an assistant, but being a very high-paid screenwriter. So it was fun.
And how did you come up with the title of the film?
Oh, Track Down. There we were kind of looking at what we wanted to stay high concept, and the words were perfect. Track down. It was a tunnel under the English Channel. It's down in that the track. There's terrorists. They've taken it down. So it just felt simple, 2 words that could, and it's often used as one word, tracked down like one word. Sometimes I see it as two words. I don't recall if we used it as one or two words, but we just felt it was catchy and simple. And it didn't have, and it kind of painted a picture. Because once I said it's terrorists taking over the English Channel Tunnel, it wrote itself, from that point forward.
And wasn't this, the second feature script you'd ever written?
It's the second script we'd ever written. The first one was called Kenny and the Pirates. It was a fun little children's adventure about two pirates that travel through time and take up with a kid. They're the world's worst pirates. And we had tried to get attention from that. We had meetings with people, no agents or anyone would touch us. We had a couple of producers, but it was never taken seriously and people wanted us to do work and we really weren't sure, who to trust or what to do. And we thought, let's go back and work on a more high concept, bigger story. I mean, that was a fun kids action adventure. Let's go to the Die Hard world where the studios were begging for scripts. And so the first one never sold. It's still out there. I use it as an example in my class for students. I actually use it in my class for coverage examples. I don't tell them I wrote it. I give it to them and say, hey, let's do coverage on this script. And I always love seeing their response. Because if I tell them I wrote it, they're going to love it, right? So for 15 years, I've been like, okay, I like that kid. He likes that script. Now I just outed myself. If they see this interview, they're going to know. Yeah.
What was it like being interviewed and having your story in the LA Times?
So it was great. So we sold the script, and Loyola, where we were both, Jim and I were both grad students at Loyola. So he had, so when we said to the Loyola, and we said to our pressers, hey, we just sold a script, and it was in the, the trades, and the school was very excited because now Loyola's put out some terrific writers. It's very impressive people have come out of there. One of my favorite writers and filmmakers, David Mickey Evans, came out of Loyola. But they're always happy to see a student do well, and so their PR department got involved. And so their PR department put out. We literally had a private PR company from a university sending out PR. So LA Times came and interviewed us, and it was funny. One of the things I said in that LA Times interview was, what would you love to do? I'd love to meet Michael Eisner. I got a note in the mail from Michael Eisner the next day.
Wow.
A handwritten note, which I still have on my desk, says, Ron, I'm available. And I never did actually go meet with Michael Eisner, which I should have. I don't know. I should have followed up on that one, right? But nonetheless, it was really exciting. We because of Loyola, we were in a lot of, we were in Premiere Magazine, we were in the LA Times. We got a lot of press, which never hurts as a writer, because writers don't get a lot of press.
Right, yeah, it's still online.
Yes, it is.
Found it. Yeah, it was really cool to see
I look a lot younger.
Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Here is a complimentary question from our book Story Questions.